Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Tales with TR, episode 253B. I don't have a guest today, boys. No, I don't have a guest. Been all over the place. I'm excited, though. I'm excited the Habs made the playoffs. Yeah, man, they made it last night. People ask me, do I still cheer for the Habs? Well, of course, first of all, because I'm alumni there. Part of the alumnus. How do you say that? Anyway, I'm part of the alumni. Not a significant part, but I'm part of the alumni. So, yeah, I go to the odd game in the playoffs. Like to be around. We get to use the alumni room. There's not always tickets available, but we do get first dibs at them. I usually take advantage. So, for that reason, and I got Alex Newhook, Newfoundlander, my buddy. Alex plays on the team, man, and he picked it up towards the end. Another 15-goal season for Alex, and I think Demi Doff will help. So you Habs fans, here you go. Might as well. I got a few questions to answer, and a bunch of you asked me about the Habs. Will they make the playoffs? Well, I'm late getting to it. Yes, I think they will. Now that they have Lane Hudson, 60 points. St. Louis, people are talking about him getting fired at the beginning of the year. Now they're talking about coach of the year. Although I don't think he'll get that. But speaking of coaches, speaking of teams that did a great job that just fell short, Columbus Blue Jackets woke up. Columbus Blue Jackets woke up on April 16th, still in possible playoff contention. Well, they were in playoff contention. Still had a chance. I don't know if you told them at the beginning of the year, amongst so much heartache and tragedy, even a year ago, the Babcock thing, dumpster fire, for fuck's sakes. And tragedy struck, and they still nearly did it. So I think of all the teams, man, and Zach Werenski led their team in scoring as a D. I think there's just a lot with Columbus that went under the radar. It kind of shouldn't have. But I guess in a 32-team league with so much emphasis on certain cities, and that's just the way it is. A lot of people look at big markets in Canada, which is pretty much any of the markets, right? But let's just say Leafs and Habs. If there's more Leafs and Habs fans, and you know, a lot of these shows are done. Like people go, well, Mitch Melnick, Montreal radio, he's biased towards the Habs. First of all, I don't think he is really for someone that's on Habs, well, Montreal radio. Secondly, what do you expect? Fucking Montreal. People go, the people on Overdrive or Leafs Lunch, you know, they talk about the Leafs all the time. Yeah, it's Toronto. It's a huge market because it's a big city, tends to go national. But I mean, fuck. Of course they're going to talk about the Leafs. And I can go. I'm on the Jason Gregor show in Edmonton. Most of you know that. The fuck do we talk about more than anything? The Oilers. I mean, call it being biased, I guess, towards the market you're in. You'd be an idiot not to talk about the hometown team. Now, some of those broadcasts go national, and people think that they're being, what the fuck are you talking about the Oilers all the time for on the Gregor show? I don't know, because it's in fucking Edmonton. You'd be surprised how many times I get that. And now, anyway, speaking of Montreal, like I said, Canadian markets, whatever. Montreal is a fucking vibe when they make the playoffs. I'm sure most of the people I'm talking with right now know that. Some don't. I do get some people listening to my pod. It's, you know, I might come across in the film community, or, you know, they might have read my book, hearing about it through somebody, but not like huge into hockey. So I say things that might seem redundant or obvious to a lot of hockey fans, like Montreal's a vibe in the playoffs. But listen, it's a fucking vibe. If you're going to go, if you're anywhere, I keep saying in Canada, if you're anywhere and you want to go see a hockey playoff atmosphere, I would honestly, if just not knowing hockey, a lot of people probably pick the Leafs first. I'd love to see the Leafs succeed this year. But if I'm going to see a playoff game, and I never knew anything about Montreal. Like, I'm not saying it because I played there. I would pick Montreal every time. What a fucking vibe. I mean, those of you who followed me with the Four Nations Cup, right? I was in Montreal for that. That's where the fights happened. And not that it, and you know what? That would have been a vibe. That would have been a vibe in fucking Papua New Guinea. That would have been a vibe in Oslo, Norway. That would have been a vibe in Vastra, Sweden. So, just because of the context surrounding it. So that might be a bad example. But no, when the Habs just snuck into the playoffs, and it is electric. I can't really tell you a time where they went in as the favor, because in my lifetime, it would have been a long time ago. And the two cups in my lifetime that the Habs have won. Well, I mean, I'm born in '77, so the two cups I remember. I was 8, turning 9 that year. Remember they won. So that was '86, and then they won in '92, '93, and I was drafted there just a couple of years later. But on both occasions, they were, as I remember, underdogs going in. Patrick Waugh put on a clinic, both, but in '86, he was virtually unheard of, and he came in, essentially led them to the cup in '92, '93. I believe they had 10 or 11 overtime wins, and they couldn't lose, man. It was nuts. But in both cases, they were an underdog coming in. A few years ago when they made the final, they had Shea Weber and Carey Price during the pandemic, either 19, 20, 21. I lose my just sense of time and space during that period. But one of those years, and again they snuck in, and I believe they were down 3-1 to the Leafs and came back. And it's always been this underdog story, which is great. I can't imagine watching them in the '70s when they had back to back Stanley Cup wins with guys like Guido Fleur and Larry Robinson and Yvon Lambert and Mario Tremblay, Ray-Jean Hall. A lot of people I ended up getting the fortunate enough to meet because they were there when I got drafted. Anyway, so the vibe's electric. Now, it's almost a religion in Montreal. You know, you can really feel it. The tension, the excitement, the anxiety is palpable. If you're going to go visit, as soon as you get off the plane or the bus or wherever you get into town, and you just walk around downtown, man, you go to Expectation or Peel Pub, Hurley's, Weinstein and Gavino. Thursday's not that's not there anymore. Sir Winston Churchill. You know, you go to these places, McLean's, and there starts to be a vibe, right? And even days before, you'll see Habs jerseys start littering in the streets, and you know, every single paper will go. The Habs will even be in the, you know, there's the sports section, and then there's the Habs section, and that'll go on and on and on, and people are talking about everything from guys that barely play any ships, you know, where they're from, what makes them tick. And this year they happen to have Ivan Demidov, who's basically his build-up and the anticipation for him to come over and enter the NHL has been unlike any other that I've seen with the Habs. I mean, recently, I guess when they got Kovalchuk, you know, they love having a star. They love having a star. They got Kovalchuk playing. They had, I just exiting as Kovalev was coming in, but you know, Kovalev had already won cups already. You know, the peak of his career was over, but they welcomed it with open arms. They loved it, right? They loved having a star. I remember when I was there, and at the start, people there was so much going on. It's easy to forget, but Saku Koivu, when he came in, and Saku went either a year or two ahead of me, but he stayed over and played over in Finland. And then when he came over, it was a lot of hype for a young player, but it was at the beginning of the year. It was in camp. Demidov comes in. No one really expected it, right? That's the thing. He's only 19. No one expected. I didn't fucking expect that they were going to burn a year on his contract and come. And no one expected him to come over from the KHL. Now this kid's 19. It's hard to get stats in the KHL. It's not a high-scoring league, and he did really well. He was one of the best players in the league. So I can't even put that in perspective. A few years ago, what was it, 6 or 7 years ago, let's say the kid that's now in Carolina, Jesper Kotkaniemi, you know, he went 3rd overall, right? Came over and, you know, he played his first couple of years. I think he had 13, 14, 15 goals, something like that. He was okay. And then I think Carolina offered sheeted him. He went. But there's a guy that came over, right? He went 3rd overall. Demidov went 5th. Except Kotkaniemi, when he played over, you know, the stats are, go back, even look at, I don't know, the Sedins, when they played over as kids over in the league in Sweden, they didn't exactly rip it up. I knew I should look that up because I knew I might be wrong, and I was. 97, 98, though, okay, there. When they were 19, Modo, 39 games, 1 goal, 4 assists for Henrik. Let's see what Daniel had. 29 games, 2 goals, 1 assist. So, sorry. They must have, there's like 4 Sedins on the team. 45 games, 4 goals, 8 assists. Now, they stayed over till they were 21. So they played 2 more years in Modo. So Demidov didn't. So I'm just saying, as a 19-year-old, to play over there, and that's the Swedish Elite League, which is good, but it's not the KHL. So what I'm saying is most of those players, you might see KHL for an 18, 19-year-old, I don't know, 50 games played, 2 goals, 4 assists. and it's the next coming of Gretzky. It's hard to tell over there, right? Because it's a different league, and a lot of them don't play. They're practicing more than anything. And like me when I was 19, like I wasn't going to get any stats. I'm not out there much, right? So that's what a lot of them are. And I'm not arguing otherwise. I'm just saying, right? There was no chance. I remember in my contract had like bonuses for like Hart Trophy and fucking Rookie of the Year and shit. I guess that one, I suppose, was realistic to some degree, but yeah. By the way, guys, you could put $4 billion at the fucking Hart Trophy winner, right? Fuck. I used to go to my agent. Why are you even putting these things in there? Like, let's just get through. Here we go. They're honestly like 50 goals, 70 goals bonus. What the fuck am I going to do? 70 goals in the NHL as a 19-year-old. Yes. So much. I remember going, Mike, Jesus, just get the fucking, just let me sign the contract. Bonus for 4 ships in a game, maybe. A bonus for like 10 goals, maybe. If I'd played all year, people got injured, maybe 10 would have bounced in off my skate, or I would have got open a few. Something might have happened. I could see those realistic bonuses, and some people had them, but sometimes it'd hurt you. I remember Nathan Dempsey. I think it was 10 games played. So there's like 3 years in a row in the minors. I played with him one of those years in St. John's, where Nathan had a bonus. He was with the Leafs, said if he played 10 games or more, I don't know what it was. I really don't. Let's say $500,000, or he became on a one-way, and they had to pay him as a one-way or something. It was something like that. So it actually hurt him, because they would just send him down. They would make sure, like, he was in their plan, and they would get him 9 games and then bring him up for the playoffs, where it went back to Wild West rules. So sometimes I guess those bonuses can bite you. Why I started talking about this, I have no idea. But what I do know is Demidov, coming over. This guy's different than I'm telling you. And I remember when he went 5th, he kind of slipped to 5th. And I remember thinking, Jesus, that's wild. The Habs got him, because the Habs, Montreal, love having stars, and they're starved for them. And they normally get them at the end of their career. And it's been so long since they've had Guy Lafleur, the Hart Trophy, Art Ross Trophy winner. And people older than me might remember the chaos going around. The hype behind Stéphane Richer, who had 50 goals for the Habs, man. I think he's their last 50-goal scorer. I played with Riche, and he could fucking snipe. But that was 96, 97. Riche had that, I think, in 87. Which, again, I was a kid. I don't remember stats when I was there. I remember loving Chris Nyland for the Habs. Other teams, I liked Cam Neely, Rick Tocchet. Obviously, I liked Gretzky and Lemieux and Yzerman. It was impossible as a hockey fan. But, I mean, other than seeing the highlights, I didn't really know. Hard not to know Gretzky had 90 goals and shit. But, like, I didn't know Stéphane Richer's stats. He was just scored every night, it seemed, on TV, and he was a hero. And then later, I realized, okay, he's the last 50-goal scorer the Habs had. And going to games as a kid, I remember, like, a lot of people, before bobbleheads were a thing, Riche had one. And I didn't go to many games now. I was big, again, from Newfoundland, but we went to a couple of tournaments back then. So, hockey tournaments, and then went over to see games in Quebec and Montreal. Great memories as a kid. But Demidov, I like how he takes it to the net, man. He takes it to the fucking cage, this guy. And certain things, he's playing in the KHL, right? He's got a style. It's not the NHL, but it's not the AHL. Like, the KHL is a great league. A lot would say the second best league in the world. And it's a strong league with people that train hard, Russians who don't fuck around. And the imports, man, they don't take chumps. So if he, that's his, I watched the other night, man, his instinct is to take it to the hole hard. And as a 19-year-old coming over to a new league with all of that expectation, he did it game 1. Oh, man, I don't know. I think you got to, and they got fucking Lane Hudson back there who got 60 fucking assists, tied some record for a rookie D. I mean, they got some magic. Outside of that, now, their first line, the Habs, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, and Caulfield. Honestly, man, you don't want to sleep on that. I think Suzuki's one of the most underrated players in the league. Now, I think Slavkovsky might be one of the most overrated at times, but he's big and he shows potential. And, well, more than potential, I don't know what it is. I haven't been a huge Slavkovsky fan. I guess I got no reason to say that. And he dropped his mitts earlier this year, and he is kind of getting acclimatized to the league. So I really have confidence in Caulfield when he has the puck around the net. And Suzuki, two-way, comes through, scored again last night to put his team up, scored 2 goals in a real important game about a week ago. I think it was against Ottawa. Just a big-time player. And if I was Team Canada, by the way, I would take Suzuki every time. To me, I find him reliable. He's a great leader. Those Habs fans, the other thing, the Habs, man, they lock these guys up. And the way I see it, they're rebuilding. If you had told, I even believe that the general manager, I believe Kent Hughes in Montreal and Jeff Molson, I believe if you asked them at the beginning of the year if their team was going to make the playoffs, I truly believe they would have probably lie detector test. I think if they said yes, they'd have failed it. In other words, they'd have thought no. It's tough for an owner and a GM to say those words, but I truly believe that in their hearts, they figured it was another rebuilding year. Now they've shown strength in signing these young players, locking them up. Now they made the playoffs when none of them have hit their peak, I think is dangerous. None of them have hit their peak. They just made the playoffs. And in Lane Hudson and Ivan Demidov, I think they have 2 future possible superstars. I don't, Lane Hudson, I mean, this guy, the sky's the limit. He looks like Quinn Hughes most of the games. I mean, in the way, I don't mean just like being offensive. I mean, the whole way, the way he skates, the way he handles himself out there. He's a little slighter. Hughes is no brick shit house, but I don't know. The only thing I can see that can slow Hudson down is injuries, because he looks frail. But who am I? Maybe he's not under all that gear. He looks small to me. Yeah. So I think the sky's the limit. I think Habs fans are in for a real treat. And when you're going into the playoffs and one team has nothing to lose, that is scary. And I think they're going to play Washington, right? And Washington have been like near first or first all year long. I'm telling you, I've been in those situations. Think of it as a fan. Whoever you cheer for, it's probably happened if you've been a fan for where your team comes in as the favorite, and maybe drops the ball because they got a team full of piss and vinegar. The Habs just got in, but I'm telling you, they're peaking. They added Demidov, who's going to help them out of nowhere. They added an offensive star. Yes, I do think he can help them in the playoffs this year. I do. Anybody who watched that one game he played could probably agree with me. They're adding an offensive star just to a team that already had momentum and have a nothing to lose, what the fuck attitude, just like the Habs in 86. I'm not saying they're going to win the cup, but if these guys went on a fucking run and won a round or two, I wouldn't be one bit surprised. And then who the fuck knows? It wouldn't be the first time something like this happened. And in recent history, a little different, because they had superstars, but I remember this happening to the LA Kings about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, 12 was it? And I remember Pittsburgh Penguins, one of those cups, one of the 3, they snuck in last day or 2 of the season. St. Louis Blues, what was that, 18 or 19, 20, whenever they won their cup. They were, I think, last place at Christmas or close. They went on a run, they had momentum, they had nothing to lose, there was no expectations, they won the cup. I'm just saying that it's a lot different. If you're a Leafs fan right now, again, you come in, even more so this year. You win the division they only won the division twice in like 80 years. I couldn't fucking believe that. Division. Fuck, man. No wonder Leafs fans are starving for success. Now they won it. So now they're coming in as like a huge favorite. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't know. They're going to play Ottawa again, who's got nothing to lose. They just wanted to make the playoffs, and they got Kachuk running around. He got no one to really battle him. I don't see a match. I don't. What are you going to do? Call up Reeves? And, probably not. I'm not saying that Reeves couldn't but take care of him, but you can't have Ryan Reeves out there playing that much in the playoffs. He hasn't even been in the NHL in a while. And, it's more, playoffs are less about fighting, even though they happen, but more about overall toughness. Like, there will be more grit. There will be more shit in front of the net, the whistles. There will be fights. People every year say, there's no fights in the playoffs. Yes, there are. There'll be fights on night 1 of the playoffs. That I guarantee. Mark my words. Tell me I'm wrong the next day. And there's just like every hit's going to be finished. So, you go in eyes wide open. You know that. You know what the Leafs have been criticized for? Now, you would have to think that the Leafs know that. And this year, Berube, and I do think a lot of them have made strides. People are all over Matthews, man. I watched him a couple of games. I watched him that game in the Four Nations Cup. I didn't do anything people say. I don't know, man. He looked great both ways. Now, the goal McDavid said scored in that final, I wasn't at that game, of course. I know he missed his man, and it might look bad, but I'm telling you right now, watch that guy. He's better two-way this year. He didn't score as much, but I'm telling you, he was. I think he's going to break out. Whether the Leafs do as a group, I don't really know. I don't. How would I? How would anybody know? I'd be lying if you said. But I mean, if you're a Leafs fan, you got to. Marner did. He did pick it up in Four Nations. He did come through when the time mattered. So there you go. You got the Leafs wanted first place. Now you got Ottawa. It's going to be a battle, but still they're significantly inferior in the standings. If I'm a Leafs or I'm a Habs fan, yes, I'm going to talk about the other teams. Yes, I'm going to talk about the other teams. I didn't plan not to. We're going to do that next week. I'm going to try to do Winnipeg, Edmonton. We're going to hopefully have my buddy from Winnipeg come on the show and we'll talk about it. I know we'll probably be we'll be into the first round by then, but I think both of those teams are intriguing for different reasons. Now, I'll talk about it on the Jason Gregor show. I'll talk about Winnipeg, and then I'm going to have maybe a few people on like last week and go through maybe our picks for the playoffs. I picked Edmonton at the beginning of the year. Now, I don't see any reason not to take Edmonton because being on the Jason Gregor show, I'm sure the Oilers fans, many of you are listening to this now, say, not Terry, you'll be a hypocrite. Now, I'm not playing to the crowd. If I was on Nashville radio, I'd have to if I said if I was on Tampa Bay radio, I'd be lying to you. If I said I think Tampa's going to win the Cup. I think they're to be respected, but I don't. But being on Edmonton radio and seeing what I saw last year and knowing they have some dogs who are amongst the best in the game, that's who I took at the beginning of the season. I took it with money. So that's putting money where my mouth is. I'm not just saying it because I'm on the Gregor show. Now, after the regular season, I'm a little bit skeptical of the depth and of the grit. And I don't know, man. Me and Kiso have a side bet. I got Colorado. He got Dallas if they meet each other. And it's going to be tough for the Oilers to beat those guys. Or L.A. I think the Oilers got L.A. in the first round. That's not going to be a layup either. But nothing has been easy for the Oilers. That's the thing if you're an Oilers fan. Nothing has been easy. They've often been, they went on losing streaks the last 2 years that even the fucking 78 Washington Capitals would be proud of. But they can turn it around. Now, Winnipeg, like I said, I'm going to get into it, but I think Winnipeg, I know that they've dropped the ball, but I do think this is the best chance they've had. I probably wouldn't be the only one saying that. They're in first place in the NHL most of the season. But if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan, okay, Hellebuck last year, he might have let you down a bit. What was it, 4 or 5 games? Like, come on. And there was a couple of shit goals that hit skates and went in that no one would have saved. It's not like he sucked, right? Some goals go behind you, but by the end of an NHL season, that'll even itself out. But in the playoffs, sometimes it just hits something at the last minute. And Martin Brodeur in '98 wouldn't have had it. So you're like, what can you fucking do? I think it was a mix of that and just overall poor play last year. But I'm starting with Hellebuck, and I know they have a team in front of them, and I could name everyone, but it's just, to me, with the Jets, it's about Hellebuck. It starts there. It's going to take a fucking team, of course. It's going to take a bunch of dogs, and I think they have it. Their best players are grit. They've got a fucking city behind them, a blue-collar city that's going to be loud and proud in the playoffs like they always are. It's not going to be easy to stop the Jets, even if they had fucking Andre Rasico from 1985, Red Light Rasico, they used to call him. They'd still have a chance with Red Light. But you know what? They've got Connor Hellebuck, and I'm fucking confident. And he knows that, and he hasn't had a bad 7-game stretch this fucking season. So I think last year was an anomaly. I think it was an outlier. And yes, the Jets have let us down before, but I think they got the fucking team. And I expect them to go a long way, too. Now, who am I predicting? I don't fucking know yet. I got to think about that. But just of those teams, sorry, a little technical difficulty there. I know, what was I talking about? The Canadian teams. So I think if you're a Canadian, I'm saying this, and I know I got all kinds of Americans and especially Australians nowadays listening. I'm just saying, from a Canadian fucking perspective, we haven't won a cup since 92, 93. Now, this year, I think we have a good chance to do it. Who knows? With those teams, I think there's a lot to be positive about. We have been in a spunk here in Canada. Now, of course, I know if you're American, you'll say, well, Brady Tkachuk is the captain of the Ottawa Senators. Austin Matthews is the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yes, I know that. And I'm proud of each player. Love watching them play. Absolutely do. If we go to Four Nations, I'm cheering against them. If they're in the Stanley Cup final, representing whatever city in Canada, I'm cheering for them. I really try to be impartial when it comes to this. Of course, I cheer for the Habs, having played there. But, you know, I am a hockey fan. It's intriguing. I loved my experience last year as a fan and going down and watching Game 7. And to be honest, Florida played the kind of game I love. So it wasn't the worst thing in the world. Being on the Edmonton radio all year, it would have been nice to watch the Oilers win. I felt like I was along for the ride as an outlying fan in the distance, getting to comment on the Oilers after that. I thought it was a bit of a privilege. It was a lot of fun. It would have been nice to see them win, but I love the way Florida played last year in the playoffs, man. They just put it all on the line. They got a lot of players that play with determination, spunk, focus, like don't let up. And if I was a coach, those are the kind of attributes that I would definitely magnify and stress to my team, for sure. Now, talk a little bit more about that next time. I will have a guest next week, guys. I apologize for that. It's been real busy, of course. I know I say that a lot, but that's the truth, and I appreciate you guys for hanging in there. If you're downtown St. John's, why not check out Trinity Pub, TJ's Pub, Rob Roy Confusion, the Martini Bar, Greensleeves Pub, and the Bull and Barrel. If you're going to go for a bite to eat, why not try out Loose Tie? Why not try out Blue on Water? Oh, Bull and Barrel. Bull and Barrel is the other bar I'd love to check out. Try out Blue on Water to eat. Go to Wedgwood Cafe, Elizabeth Avenue. They also do catering, so check it out. Nice place to have a little bit of lunch. Peter Wedgwood, Wedgwood Cafe. Strength and balance for the body and mind. Find that at Rope Walk Lane. Find that with Ryan Power at Power Conditioning. There's 2 locations for Mr. Lube in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. One's on Torbay Road, one's on Cabral Road. Live, laugh, lube. Check out Crown Cabinets while you're at it, buys. And of course, True Hockey. Take what's yours. Thank you to my friends at True Hockey. Love the gear, love the sticks. Take what's yours. Folks, will be back in just a couple of days with more Tales with TR.